That, of course, our own Jessica Kent giving you the numbers of this building as we bring in a couple of other pretty good colleagues of mine, Bob Stauffer and Jack Michaels from the Oilers Radio Network. It's The Panel, brought to you by our friends at Sport Chek for this special Oilers TV live presentation. We had to do a panel, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's been a while, guys. First of all, let's start with the big story today as the season begins. The Oilers open up this brand-new facility. What have you made of this building thus far? We've seen 4 preseason games so far. Just first impressions, guys.
I think 18,347 are going to be pretty excited. As you can see behind us, it's just gorgeous in here. They've laid it out perfectly. Everyone's going home with a T-shirt tonight, so all the kitsch is there. And then practically on the ice, what Bob and I have noticed during the preseason is extremely live boards. And not only live boards, but boards that tend to kick pucks out into the slot. So maybe an extra few scoring chances this year, and certainly a situation that the players are becoming aware of, most notably goaltender Cam Talbot, and that may be the most important piece to tonight's lineup for Edmonton.
Staff, you're an Edmonton guy. You watched many a game at Northlands Coliseum, Rexall Place. What's this building like to you, and what's the process been like to get to this point where we're seeing this thing finally open?
You know, Tom, like just to know how far the city came, and, you know, the push from Daryl Cates. I had Gary Bettman on Oilers Now a couple days ago, and I said, you know, Gary, you were part of what made this happen. And he said, no, I wasn't. This was about the city of Edmonton and Stephen Mandel, along with, Daryl Cates. And to know the battle that was there, it wasn't always the most popular discussion point for the city of Edmonton. There were a lot of people that were opposed to it. It's remarkable now that it's built, how it's kind of swung, and people really are sensing that we have something to be special. It is an iconic building. It's the best building in the world right now. And I think we're going to grow with it. I think the fans are going to, if they don't already love it, they're going to come to love it. But the Oilers have got to do something to make it their house as well, because Rexall Place, though it served its purpose in terms of functionality from a building perspective, it was an easy place to play for opposition teams. And it starts tonight for the Oilers addressing that this is our house. And Edmonton built this facility, right? But the Oilers have got to make it their rink.
And the guy that will help lead the way, of course, Connor McDavid, the new captain. What do you guys say to him being the youngest captain of all time in NHL history? Right move? His support system, is it good? You know, I don't think you could go wrong with a guy like him. But
I don't think any of us were surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a fait accompli. I think the Oilers bought themselves a year last year, and it was, somewhat coincidental that Andrew Ference was injured and they went the season without a captain in place. But I think the plan all along, looking back on it, and there were certain moments within Connor McDavid's season, but Todd McLellan said it best. When he came back and had the immediate kind of impact he did after being out for so many games, 37 to be exact, with that fractured collarbone, that he knew, this is a guy we can follow, and we can follow for a number of years. In terms of the support group, I think it's natural to have guys like, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Jordan Eberle, who've been through some of the tough years and now can see the light at the proverbial end of the tunnel. And then you've got Milan Lucic, who, Bob, I think is setting into a new role. It's the first time he's going to be a full-time assistant captain, but he's got that pedigree the Oilers are looking for in terms of a proven winner stepping into their locker room.
Yeah, and I think, Jack, that's a fair comment about Milan. I mean, for the second consecutive year, Connor McDavid is the biggest story in hockey. Last year, the next great franchise player, generational talent, but he got derailed halfway through the year. So we got robbed of 37 games last season. You talk to guys from all over all of the other markets around the league, and they'll tell you they're all watching to see what Connor's going to do this year in Edmonton. And there is nobody that is underestimating the talent, the ability this guy has. And that's the players. That's the players on opposition teams, the respect that they have for his God-given ability, but also for how he's worked, how he was brought up, how he's conducted himself. And now the Oilers have some support outside of maybe that whole younger group that was once, Hall, Nugent, Hopkins, Eberle. With the addition of Milan Lucic, there's only one Milan Lucic in the NHL. He's that guy. And to have that guy just there as a cooler to make sure that Connor can focus on playing, but also maybe has a guy.
He's a productive player.
He's a productive player, but he can look at his own team, guys on his own team, and say, hey, like he's got all the backup he's ever going to need as a captain with Milan Lucic, right on and off the ice. So it's a wonderful situation, and people are a little concerned. Milan didn't light it up in the preseason. wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets one here in the first couple games.
Well,
Tom, the other thing is with Connor McDavid being captain, and Bob talked about the respect on and off the ice, I'll be curious to see how the Oilers can use that to their advantage. We've heard for so many years, what have we heard? The Oilers treat their opponents sometimes with too much respect.
easy to play against.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens this year, because it's to the point now, as Bob indicated, the players around the league, yeah, they respect him, but they also fear Connor McDavid a little bit. Fear getting embarrassed. Fear being posterized, basically.
Right.
And so that, I think, is something Edmonton can use to its advantage, and perhaps it creates open ice for other players as well.
Really quickly, one final note on Connor. Have you guys noticed that he seemed to have elevated his game a little bit? There's this calm, cool demeanor about himself. I mean, that goal we saw the other night against the Canucks, as an example, has he set the bar for himself a little higher, in your opinion?
He's shooting more.
Yeah.
He's shooting the puck more. Like that, and that's going to buy him more space. Now, the one thing he does do is he shoots high to the blocker's side, and in time, I think we've talked about this a lot. I think he's going to use those pads as a pass when he's got a guy like Lucic driving the lane. If they got a chance on a 3-on-2 or something like that, he might start to shoot a little lower. But when he gets opportunities in tight, he tends to go high blocker or deke around the player. And I think you'll see he's such a smart player that he'll add and progress and grow in that regards.
Okay, moving on to the rest of the roster, you guys. There was a lot of talk about them getting bigger, tougher, harder to play against physically. But there's that element of speed. And when a team wins a Stanley Cup, everybody has to replicate. That seems to be the soup du jour, if you will, or the flavor of the week. And now everyone's saying you have to play like the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tom McClellan talked about balance. Is Drake Gazzola the perfect example of that balance where little guys can actually fit in? I know he's hurt, he's nicked up. We don't know if he's going to play or not, unless you guys have heard otherwise. But is he kind of part of that blend, a perfect example of speed and a little bit of grit and sandpaper as well?
Well, I think so, Tom. I mean, it's a little early with Drake Gazzola to project on what he can be in his first season, because not only is he coming out of the NCAA Division I ranks and playing his first year as a pro, but he's going to be playing it at a position he hasn't played regularly in 4 or 5 years. I think of a guy like Chris Russell as a perfect blend of what the Oilers are trying to get to in terms of, you know, a little bit more speed and ability to transition the puck to their forwards, something that's been a problem for Edmonton in years past in terms of having the forwards and the talent to light it up occasionally, but not having the people to get them there. And now with the addition of, and I'm calling it addition, but Oscar Klefbom didn't play after mid-December last year. Now you got Adam Larsson, now you got Chris Russell. All three can transport the puck reasonably well. And I think that gives Andrei Sekera ample room to kind of settle into what he does best, which is be a second-pairing defenseman who can do a little bit of everything. So all of a sudden, the Oilers' top four looks much better, and as a result, that blend that you're talking about, that balance, is helped out greatly by players on the back end who can transition it to the forwards that we've been hearing about for so many years. We've been hearing, the Oilers play at a breakneck pace, they can light it up. Well, they haven't scored a lot of goals. No. They haven't scored a ton of goals.
Every time we'd go on
we
the road,
always correct people.
Yeah.
We always correct visiting media. Well,
they don't score a lot. Yeah.
Right. That might change a little bit this year with the addition of the three players on the back end I just mentioned.
Well, last year Johnny Gaudreau had 78 points for the Calgary Flames, but they had 3 D-men with 40-plus points transition to the puck. It makes a huge difference to their hockey club. If you had Taylor Hall in Calgary last year and Johnny Gaudreau in Edmonton, you got a swing of 15 points for both players. That's how important the defense is that Jack was referring to. I'll get to the size thing here with Gazzola. I mean, what I like about Gazzola, the old saying is big men have to prove they can't play and little guys have to prove they can.
Yep.
Well, he's a little guy that's got a little bit of a burr in his saddle, right? Because he was sort of, he was an undrafted player. He suddenly became a star on a great line at North Dakota. They won a national title. Then he became the guy. But he wants to shove it up some people's you-know-whats out there, right? He's got that attitude. And I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I said it. So you can see there's a highly we've had some smaller players here that lack competitiveness, and they just fell away and out of the mix long term. And here you got a guy, and he's going to me, he's the antithesis of that. And I believe, when he gets healthy, can he play center? I think time will tell. I think there's no question for me that Drake will be able to contribute offensively in the top 9. I'm not sold it's necessarily at center yet, because I think there's going to be some growing pains. And then conversely on the back end, Russell gives him a legitimate NHL defenseman that's played over 500 games, right? And that's big. I mean, they basically added, they're two, as Jack referred to with Clefbaum, they're 2.5 defensemen better than they were last year. That is massive for this group right now. So, are they a Stanley Cup contender? No. But can they evolve into a Stanley Cup playoff team by the end of the season? I think they can be in the mix. I think they will be in the mix. And I think in large part because they've gone an atypical route, added a couple NCAA free agents that have given some depth. Don't know how much we'll see Benning, but we're definitely going to see Gazzola. But they've significantly upgraded their defense as well.
Tom, it's been a more competitive camp. I mean, one thing, Bob and I had Mark Letestu on the other night, after one of the preseason games, and unprompted, he said, you know what, guys, the biggest thing is this has been a far more competitive camp this year. I felt pushed to retain my spot. Drake Gazzola is one of those guys who's threatening other people's places on the team. Benoit Pouliot's getting pushed by Patrick Maroon. Milan Lucic is going to get pushed by Benoit Pouliot. In other words, you've got competitiveness from within, serious competitiveness from within for the first time in a long time. And when the players are saying that, and veteran players like Mark Letestu are recognizing that no longer are you just coasting through camp, knowing that your spot on the team is secure, I think that's a good thing for everyone involved, and it will help Edmonton be more competitive once they get into regular season play.
How important is the start this year? Because 6 of 9 in October are right here at Rogers Place.
It's an absolute. I mean, put it this way: if they have a poor start, it's a killer. There's no excuses. The team's relatively healthy, right?
And November's brutal. 13 games in 25 days, most of which on the road.
They gotta get up and running right from the get-go here, which is why I think they played close to a lineup of the last couple of games here with a couple tweaks. But they gotta get off. They got a lot of home dates. They gotta make this their house from the get-go, and they gotta be up and running. They gotta capitalize on some teams coming out east. Sometimes those teams have a bit of a malaise early in the year, and they gotta get after it.
Tom, among the first 10 opponents, only 2 were playoff teams a year ago, St. Louis and Washington, and both of those games are here at Rogers Place. So it's imperative, and as Bob mentioned, making it your house, the players have to get used to the intricacies of their own building, and I think you said it on one of your reports earlier in the season. You don't want this to become a neutral site game early in the season while everyone's still getting used to it. You want to establish that it's going to be tough to win here early in the year.
All right, quickly, guys, what do you expect tonight in terms of this atmosphere around this building?
I think it's going to be rocking. I think the joint's going to be jumping. I think folks might be a little bit more fueled up because we might be a little later on starting and get after it. And the Oilers have got to come out on fire. And I'm going to guess that Glenn Gullinson's sitting there in the Calgary room going, you got to survive the first 10 minutes. You know what? Not a lot of coaches have had to say that coming into Rexall Place, but the time has come for Edmonton to make it like that. And I believe Todd McClellan's group's going to be ready to go.
The only thing I disagree with there is I'm not sure that's going to be Glenn Gullinson's approach. He's got a team in his eyes that was 20 points better a couple years ago. That was a playoff team. He's got Sean Monahan. Now he's got Johnny Gaudreau back in the fold. That's going to give everyone a spark. For that matter, he's even got Chris Versteeg, a guy who was on a PTO with the Oilers. Now he signs with the Flames. But most importantly, as Bob talked about, he's got the defense. He's got Mark Giordano. He's got TJ Brody. He's got Dennis Weidman.
Interesting pairings, though, Jack.
Well, we'll see whether that switches
Giordano
up over the course of the year.
and Brody aren't together.
And Dougie Hamilton. I mean, Hamilton had 43 points a year ago. Mark Giordano had 21 goals and 56 points. This D can light you up. I think we're going to see some fire wagon hockey tonight. I think there's going to be a ton of scoring chances all over the ice.
All right, boys. Always a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks for doing this. What time are you on air tonight?
I'm about to burst right now.
Excitement.
We're going to make this an hour-long segment.
What time are you on tonight, real quick? So
I
if
think
people
we're on
can watch
all day.
All day. Okay, there you go. So just tune in to 6:30, Chet. As always, a pleasure, guys. Bob Stauffer and Jack Michaels from the Oilers Radio Network.